Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Earl. I'm 41 years old, divorced, and the proud father of a 10-year-old girl named Lacey. She's the one thing in my life that keeps me grounded. For the past 7 years, I worked at Darson Logistics. Not the flashiest company in Charlotte, but it was stable, and I'm a man who values stability. I was a senior operations analyst. My job was to keep processes running smooth, reports accurate, and overhead lean. I didn't gossip, didn't play politics, I just did my job. Every single day. No drama. But all of that changed the morning I stepped into Clarissa Vaughn's office. She had only been with the company for about 6 months, promoted quickly to Vice President of Strategic Business Development. 38, polished, commanding, Clarissa had the kind of sharp presence that made boardrooms fall silent. People said she was a rising star, a game changer. I saw something else, something colder, calculated. The kind of person who smiled at you while planning how to use you. I didn't realize I was next on the list. It started with subtle things, how she'd linger by my desk, how her meetings always ended with personal feedback, how her compliments felt more like veiled invitations. "You've got such an intuitive mind, Earl," she'd say, hand on my shoulder, fingers grazing a second too long. At first, I brushed it off. I'd been around long enough to know some managers lacked boundaries. But when she started scheduling quarterly reviews at upscale lounges instead of the office, I started keeping mental notes. Then came the invite, a leadership retreat at a mountain lodge in Asheville. Private rooms. Limited guest list. Just her, me, and a few key talents. I declined. Told her my daughter was visiting that weekend. She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Some opportunities," she said, "don't knock twice." Then Tuesday morning came. She asked me into her office. The glass walls felt more like mirrors as I stepped inside. She was wearing a crimson blouse that didn't belong in any professional setting. Leaning back in her chair, she locked eyes with me and said, "I want to make you my special assistant." There was a silence. Thick. Her fingers tapped against the mahogany desk like she was playing a beat only she could hear. "It comes with extra responsibilities," she added, "and certain expectations. Discretion. Loyalty. I think you understand." I stood there frozen. Not from confusion, but from the sharp clarity of what was being said. It wasn't a job offer. It was a power move wrapped in perfume and executive privilege. I kept my voice steady. "I appreciate the offer, but I'll have to decline." Her smile flickered. Then dropped. "This company rewards team players, Earl. People who understand how success really works." I didn't blink. "I'm here to work. Not play whatever game this is." Her eyes narrowed. The temperature in the room dropped. As I turned to leave, she called after me. "Real men know how to seize opportunity." I didn't respond. But in my gut, I knew, this wasn't over. I should have known better. You don't say no to someone like Clarissa Vaughn and walk away untouched. It started small. The Henderson account review, my project, was suddenly reassigned. I was left off meeting invites I used to lead. Emails I sent started going unanswered. Colleagues who used to chat with me in the break room now nodded silently and walked the other way. Then, 90 minutes after that conversation in her office, it came. Sandra from HR tapped on my cubicle wall like she was about to deliver a death sentence. "Can I speak with you for a moment, Earl?" She handed me a white envelope, lips trembling as she avoided eye contact. Effective immediately, it read. Termination due to insubordination and failure to align with company values. 7 years. Gone. No warning. No formal write-ups. Just a cold letter and a security escort. I looked up at Sandra. This is a mistake. I'm sorry, Earl. This came from the executive level. I don't have the details. Security arrived. Two guys I'd said good morning to 100 times now stood next to my desk like I was a threat. I packed up a coffee mug, a framed picture of Lacey, and a few folders I didn't even want. The walk through the office felt like a funeral procession. Coworkers stared, whispering behind screens, eyes wide but mouths shut. And there she was, Clarissa, by the elevators, chatting with another exec. Her eyes found mine across the lobby. She smiled. Not politely. Triumphantly. The message was clear: this is what happens when you say no. I drove home in silence. No music. No calls. Just Charlotte traffic and the sound of my life falling apart. The image of Lacey's drawing still taped to my fridge haunted me. Daddy's office, she had labeled it, with stick figures and hearts. That office didn't exist anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from my ex-wife, Karen. Lacey said you were picking her up this weekend, still good? I stared at the screen, wondering how I'd explain to my daughter that her dad had been fired. Not because he failed, but because he refused to sell himself out. The worst part? I thought I was prepared. I had kept screenshots of those late-night texts. Saved voicemails. Documented meetings where her tone shifted from professional to personal. I even had the voice memo from the night she called me, slightly drunk, offering mutual opportunities in exchange for loyalty. But none of that mattered. HR brushed it off. When I contacted compliance, they told me my dismissal had already been reviewed and upheld. Performance concerns had been documented. Multiple colleagues, they claimed, had corroborated Clarissa's version, that I had been insubordinate, resistant to leadership. It was a complete fabrication. I called Derek, my former cubicle neighbor and friend of 4 years. Look, he said, voice tight, I don't know all the details. Clarissa said you'd been inappropriate. That there were issues. I felt the floor drop out. She told you that? He sighed. She's the VP, man. She said HR had files, complaints, all that. Maybe it's best to just move on. Move on. That phrase repeated in my head like a cruel joke. How do you move on when your entire professional life has been burned to the ground by a lie? I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Just sat at my desk surrounded by outdated business books and folders with my name on them, pointless now. I'd worked so hard to keep my name clean. No scandals. No politics. Just honest work. And in one day, that reputation was poisoned by someone who didn't even flinch. But underneath the devastation, something else started to grow. Something quiet. Cold. Clarissa thought she had buried me. But she didn't know what I was capable of when I had nothing left to lose. Rock bottom isn't a place. It's a moment. For me, it was 2:14 a.m., sitting at my kitchen table with a half-empty beer, rereading the termination letter like it might change if I blinked hard enough. I'd lost my job, my professional reputation, and my sense of stability, all because I refused to let Clarissa Vaughn treat me like some executive plaything. But pain has a way of clarifying things. I opened my laptop, accessed my backup drive, and there it was, months of digital breadcrumbs. Screenshots. Email threads. Voicemails. Meeting recaps I'd written and never shared. All saved out of habit, not foresight. But suddenly, they looked different. They looked like ammunition. Still, I knew better than to fight this alone. People like Clarissa. They don't just rely on charm, they operate like shadowy syndicates, cover stories, loyal enablers, and corporate shields built from bloodless HR policies. So I called a private investigator. His name was Marcus Thompson. Ex-cop, mid-50s, eyes like burnt steel. We met at a diner off South Boulevard, neutral ground, bad coffee, and good silence. She destroyed my career in one afternoon, I told him. I want to understand how. He listened. Said little. Then nodded. Give me 2 weeks, he said. I'll find the cracks. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't possibly know, was just how deep the rabbit hole went. While Marcus dug, I started my own research. LinkedIn profiles. Company press releases. Obituaries of careers that used to mean something. I compiled a list of names, men who had been quietly fired, demoted, or resigned voluntarily, around the same time Clarissa rose through the ranks. Some I remembered in passing. Others I had only heard about. One in particular caught my eye, Thomas Reed, former director of strategy. Had left just before Clarissa's promotion to VP. His LinkedIn showed he'd taken a serious step down, now working at a much smaller firm in Jacksonville. I sent him a message. No expectations. To my surprise, he replied. We should talk. But not over email. Meanwhile, Marcus called with his first round of findings. Your VP friend, he said, has a pattern. Clarissa had worked for 3 other companies before Darson. At each one, she rose fast, and left behind a trail of NDAs, wrongful termination settlements, and male employees whose careers mysteriously unraveled shortly after they declined special arrangements. 6 sealed settlements in the last 10 years. Always with male subordinates. Always quiet. Always brushed under the rug. And that wasn't all. She fabricates paper trails, Marcus said. Starts building a case against her targets months in advance, performance issues, attitude flags, unsubstantiated HR reports. By the time she's ready to drop the axe, it looks legit. It chilled me. Not because it was unexpected, but because it was so precise. So systematic. I wasn't her first. I was just her most recent. Marcus found 2 men willing to speak off record. They told stories almost identical to mine, suggestive offers, retaliation, character assassination. One had nearly lost his marriage. The other ended up in therapy for a year after his firing. She isolates you, one of them said. Makes you doubt your own memory. Turns your coworkers against you before you even realize you're being hunted. But Clarissa had made one fatal mistake. She assumed I'd go quietly. So when Thomas Reed agreed to meet, I drove 4 hours to Jacksonville and bought him coffee. He was thinner than his profile picture, haunted around the eyes. But as soon as I mentioned Clarissa, his mask cracked. She ruins people, he said. I spent $17,000 on lawyers. Got nowhere. They had documents, emails, write-ups. All fake. But ironclad. He pushed a flash drive across the table. I signed an NDA. I can't testify. But I can't stop you from discovering what's already public. That flash drive contained copies of internal communications, a doctored performance review, and HR correspondence dated months before Thomas was ever accused of misconduct. It was the same script. Different man. Same destruction. The story wasn't isolated. It was an epidemic. Clarissa was a corporate predator operating under the radar, protected by boards that valued silence over accountability. And suddenly, I saw it clearly. She didn't just cost me a job. She was going to do this again. And again. Until someone made her stop. So I made a decision. I would be that someone. I'd always believed in staying professional, keeping things civil, taking the high road. But there comes a time when the high road just leads you back to the bottom of the same hill. Clarissa Vaughn didn't just take my job, she tried to erase me. But I wasn't going to let her write the ending. Not this time. The first move was building my case like I used to build forecasts, precise, layered, airtight. No rage. Just cold, clean truth. I organized every shred of evidence I had. 37 screenshots of inappropriate texts. 14 emails with suggestive undertones. 3 audio recordings from business meetings. 1 drunken voicemail where she laid out her expectations. Clarissa had called it an opportunity. I called it evidence. Marcus, my investigator, kept digging while I worked on something else, leverage. Clarissa was powerful because she isolated her targets. She built quiet destruction into the system and made sure everyone suffered alone. But what if we didn't stay alone? I reached back out to the men Marcus had found. At first, they were hesitant, most had signed NDAs, some were just scared. But one by one, I started to break through. I listened. I shared my story. I showed them what Thomas had given me. What Clarissa had taken from all of us. And I said the words no one had dared say out loud. We don't have to take this anymore. 4 men agreed to talk. 2 more would stay anonymous but provide documentation. Patricia Nen, once a frontrunner for VP, agreed to confirm off-record that Clarissa had used similar tactics on her. But the real breakthrough? David Brooks. David had been quietly fired from Darson 8 months before me. Clarissa was only a director back then. But she had made a move on him, too, only she went too far. David had documented everything. Voice memos, emails, even a witness statement from a coworker who'd overheard one of their conversations. I was going to sue, he told me. But I didn't have the money. They threatened to bury me in legal fees. What if you weren't alone? I asked. He was quiet for a long time. Then, let's do it. The next call I made wasn't to a lawyer. It was to Rebecca Foster, an investigative journalist for the Charlotte Observer. I'd read her pieces on corporate corruption, whistleblower cases. She had a reputation for burning down the house when the truth demanded it. She picked up on the second ring. Ms. Foster, I said. I have a story. You're going to want to hear this. I laid it out. Not everything, just enough to make her curious. Sexual misconduct. Power abuse. Retaliation, she asked, voice sharp. You have documentation? Yes. And multiple witnesses. You realize this is going to get ugly? I'm counting on it. She agreed to meet. The next week, we sat across from each other in a corner booth at a coffee shop downtown. I handed her the drive. Walked her through the timeline. She said nothing for the first hour. Just listened, scribbled, nodded. When I finished, she leaned back and exhaled. This isn't just one bad executive, she said. This is a system. She was right. Clarissa was the face of it, but the board, HR, and the culture that protected her. That was the machine. And I was going to make sure the machine broke. Rebecca took the case. Her editor greenlit a 3-part series. We had everything we needed. Heavy checkmark 4 men on record. Heavy checkmark 2 anonymous witnesses. Heavy checkmark evidence across 3 companies. Heavy checkmark financial discrepancies in Clarissa's expense reports. Heavy checkmark a pattern of fabricated performance write-ups. And the final piece? A verified pattern of settlements and NDAs, uncovered by Marcus, showing 6 quiet exits under Clarissa's leadership. Rebecca smiled grimly. This is going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. Good, I said. It's time. That weekend, I printed out a picture of Lacey and pinned it above my desk. Not as a soft reminder, but as a reason. I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing this so she'd never have to learn how to stay silent. There's a sound that happens right before an empire cracks, like the air holds its breath. That's what Tuesday morning felt like when the first article dropped. Front page. Charlotte Observer. Corporate predator, how a rising executive used power to abuse employees. By Rebecca Foster. 4 named victims. Too anonymous. Audio files embedded in the article. Screenshots. Financial discrepancies. A detailed timeline. The story spread like wildfire. By noon, it had over 200,000 shares. By 2 p.m., Clarissa's LinkedIn profile was gone. By 3 p.m., Darson Logistics stock price dropped 12%. Calls flooded the company, press inquiries, investor demands, internal HR emails leaked onto Reddit and Twitter. My phone buzzed non-stop. Texts from old coworkers. Is this real? Dude, holy sh*t. You really did it. But I didn't respond. I was watching. Waiting. Clarissa was silent at first, her usual strategy. Control the message, let legal clean up the mess. But Rebecca was just getting started. Wednesday. Article 2. The cover-up, how companies enable executive abuse. This one cut deeper. Internal memos. NDA strategies. HR email chains showing a pattern of silencing and manipulation. Rebecca had found a former HR assistant who had quit over unethical directives involving Clarissa. She went on record anonymously, but her files did the talking. Clarissa's fabricated reviews. Identical language reused across multiple employee files. Doctored timestamps. Backdated performance flags. She wasn't just a predator. She was a methodical one. And now, she was exposed. By Thursday, Darson Logistics placed Clarissa on administrative leave pending internal review. But we weren't done. Friday. Article 3. Breaking the silence, victims speak out about workplace retaliation. That was the one that broke the dam. First-person quotes. Raw accounts. My voice, Thomas's pain, David's rage, even Patricia's off-record warning. We weren't shadows anymore, we were names. Faces. Fathers. Colleagues. Professionals. And we were united. Clarissa tried to fight back. That afternoon, a vague public statement appeared on her attorney's Twitter account. These allegations are false, coordinated by disgruntled former employees. Ms. Vaughn looks forward to clearing her name. It didn't land. Too late. Too soft. Too desperate. By Sunday, the board called an emergency meeting. And by Sunday night, Darson Logistics issued a press release. Effective immediately, Clarissa Vaughn has been terminated for violations of company conduct policy. We remain committed to ensuring a safe, ethical workplace. No apology. No admission of guilt. But it was enough. Marcus called me Monday morning. She's done, he said. 2 of her former companies just announced internal reviews. Legal sharks smell blood. I didn't smile. Not yet. Instead, I went to my bookshelf and pulled out the company handbook Clarissa once quoted when defending team loyalty. I fed it through my shredder. Then I booked a haircut, updated my resume, and made one more call, to Henderson Industries, a firm I'd interviewed with years ago but declined due to family obligations. Earl, the hiring manager said, we've seen your name in the news. We'd like to offer you a position. Senior analyst. Full oversight. Flexible schedule for your daughter. The salary? 40% higher than Darson. The benefits? Whistleblower protections. Legal coverage. Mental health support. I accepted. That weekend, I picked up Lacey from her mom's house. She ran into my arms with that missing tooth grin that melted the hardest day. Mom said you got a new job, she said as we drove. Is it a good one? Yeah, I told her. It's a really good one. We spent the day at the Science Museum. Normal. Peaceful. Real. And that night, I got a message from an unknown number. Thank you. I was afraid to speak up. Your story gave me the courage to report what happened to me. A friend. I read it twice. Then turned off my phone. And for the first time in months, I slept without waking up angry. I thought the storm had passed. Clarissa was fired. The articles had run. I had a new job, a better job. My daughter was proud of me. My name was finally cleared in the only court that mattered, public truth. But victories have shadows. And not all predators work alone. It happened on a Thursday. I was working late, first week at Henderson Industries, finalizing a logistics optimization report. Just me, my laptop, and the soft hum of fluorescent lights. The office was quiet. Then my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. Earl. Yes. This is Michael Vale, the voice said. I was on the board at Darson Logistics. We've never spoken, but I think we need to. I stepped into an empty conference room. What do you want? I asked. I want you to understand something, he said calmly. Clarissa didn't act alone. The silence between us thickened. What do you mean? There were others, he said. Not in the same way, but complicit. She had help. The HR cover-ups, the fake performance logs, even the pushback you got after filing with compliance. That wasn't just her. I felt my throat tighten. You're telling me this now? I'm telling you this, he continued, because she's threatening to sue the company. And her lawyers are preparing to subpoena everyone who supported your claims. Including you. I felt the chill hit my spine. She's going to play victim, he said. Say it was consensual. Say she was unfairly targeted for being a powerful woman. Say she was set up by bitter men afraid of strong female leadership. I didn't say anything. Because deep down, I'd feared something like this. She's got contacts in media, he added. They're shopping a counter-narrative. If it gains traction, the truth won't matter. I clenched my jaw. So what now? I asked. There's one person who can shut this down, he said. The one who helped her the most. The one who wrote the false HR reports. Her inside man. Who? Jared Holloway. I froze. Jared Holloway had been the director of human resources. He was the one who gave me the termination notice through Sandra. He was the one who, on paper, had flagged my attitude issues and signed off on the disciplinary actions. I knew Jared, I whispered. I trusted him. So did we, Michael said. Turns out he and Clarissa were more than colleagues. There's evidence they were involved. Off the books. She protected his job, and he protected her narrative. I nearly dropped the phone. She used him to insulate herself, Michael continued. But now? Now he's panicking. And from what I hear, he's willing to talk, to flip, if it protects him from a lawsuit. The rage that washed over me was different from the earlier kind. This wasn't about humiliation. Or career sabotage. This was betrayal layered on betrayal. That night, I sat alone with my laptop. I pulled up the reports Jared had signed. The same ones Clarissa cited to justify my lack of alignment. The patterns were there, deliberate word choices, repeated phrases, all matching the template Marcus uncovered in his investigation. Fake performance flags. Staged warnings. But Jared hadn't expected the digital forensics to catch up. Marcus confirmed it, timestamps didn't match edit history. The original versions of my employee files had no red flags, until 3 weeks before my termination. All changes traced back to Jared's credentials. He was the architect of my fall. Clarissa may have given the order, but Jared dug the grave. And now? Now he was offering to talk. Marcus arranged a private meeting, off-record. No lawyers. Just me, Marcus, and Jared in a private office suite downtown. Jared looked smaller in person than I remembered. The suit fit looser. His face was pale. His eyes avoided mine. "I didn't know it would go that far," he muttered. I didn't speak. He cleared his throat. "Clarissa said you were unstable. That you were obsessed." She gave me documents, text messages, edited ones. I didn't verify. I just signed off. "She ruined me," I said. "And you helped." He didn't argue. "She told me it was standard procedure. That you were a liability. That HR had to move fast or there'd be legal risk. And you never once questioned it." He looked up. "She made me believe I owed her. I didn't realize until she started covering her tracks. She has burner phones, encrypted apps. She's done this to more men than you know." "What do you want, Jared?" "I want protection," he said. "I'll testify. I'll give statements. I'll admit to what I did. But I want indemnity in any company lawsuits." Marcus nodded. "We can arrange that." I didn't shake his hand. Didn't thank him. I just stood. "You're lucky I believe in justice more than revenge," I said. "Because if I didn't, this meeting would have gone very differently." Back home that night, I poured myself a drink and stared at the city lights through the window. I thought I had reached the peak of the mountain. But Clarissa had built this on a much deeper foundation. She wasn't just a manipulator. She was a network. And if I wanted true justice, I wasn't done digging yet. Jared Holloway's confession opened the floodgates. Once his statement went public, submitted under oath to an independent compliance firm hired by Darson's legal counsel, it was like a signal flare. Former employees. Mid-level managers. Even one board assistant. All started coming forward. The machine Clarissa had built didn't just crumble, it imploded. Rebecca Foster published a follow-up exposé titled, "Inside the Power Games, How One Executive Weaponized Loyalty and Destroyed Lives." This time, it wasn't just about me. It was about dozens. Men whose careers were derailed. Women who'd been overlooked or pushed out for refusing to play along. 2 former interns came forward with eerily similar stories, invitations to leadership dinners that turned into pressure-laced encounters. The board had no choice but to release a public apology, finally. "We deeply regret the oversight, culture, and structural failures that allowed these violations to occur. We are cooperating with authorities and reviewing all past settlements." That was corporate speak for "we know we're screwed." Clarissa didn't go quietly. Her lawyers filed a wrongful termination countersuit, claiming gender discrimination and targeted media slander. But Jared's confession dismantled her defense. So did the digital forensics. And then, the voice recording. Not mine. David Brooks had one. An old one he forgot he had backed up to cloud storage. Clarissa, at a company dinner, laughing about how easy it is to push someone out when you've got HR in your pocket. It was enough. The company reached a private settlement with all known victims. Clarissa's lawsuit collapsed. She disappeared from the media cycle almost overnight. Last I heard, she moved out of state. Rumor was she tried to launch a consulting firm. It failed in 3 months. Nobody wanted to be associated with her name. As for me, I didn't take the money. Darson offered me a quiet, generous settlement to walk away, sign an NDA, and let it all fade. I refused. I wanted the record corrected. Publicly. And they did it. A press release. An internal email. Clearing my name, reinstating my professional reputation, and offering me a formal apology. That meant more than a check ever could. I kept working at Henderson Industries. I rebuilt my life, brick by brick. Lacey and I took weekend trips. Simple things. Museums. Ice cream shops. Hiking trails with dumb names. I stopped flinching when I got emails from HR departments. I started sleeping through the night again. And I never deleted that folder labeled Clarissa Vaughn, master file. Not out of fear. But because sometimes, justice isn't just a moment. It's a reminder. Months passed. Then one day, a small envelope showed up at my home address. No return label. Inside was a card. Simple. Handwritten. You didn't just save your own career. You saved mine, too. Thank you for not staying silent. A name I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a long time. Because that's when it hit me. This story was never just mine. It was for every person who's been cornered in a quiet room, offered opportunity, laced with threat. For every professional who's been forced to smile while swallowing their pride to survive. And for every man or woman who thought no one would ever believe them. I still keep the mug from my old job. It's chipped, the logo faded, but I keep it on a shelf above my desk. Next to it is a photo of Lacey holding up a sign she made at school. My dad is a hero. He stood up when no one else would. She doesn't know all the details. But she knows enough. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.